Hi, my name is Kylie Antley. I'm going to be discussing my observation project submission form that I've been working on for about the last month. Overall, it took me a minute to figure out how I was going to describe these experiences in a way. To begin first, I have grown up around those with disabilities, psychological disabilities, physical disabilities, verbal disabilities, and things like that. I grew up with a cousin who is nonverbal. She is permanently in a wheelchair and has been since she started walking. She, as a child, experienced brain damage that altered the course of the rest of her life. So she is nonverbal, but she speaks through a laptop. She has pretty much full control of her thumbs. So that's how she communicates. So I grew up around those things, knowing about how people with disabilities can communicate, different ways of communication, what different disabilities can look like, and that you can't always see someone's disability. And someone who looks able-bodied does not always mean that they are. Some people experience chronic illnesses and things like that. So to begin, I know that Kroger and Walmart and a lot of grocery stores that I've noticed try to be very, very inclusive. And most of the time they are. I think they do really well at it. Specifically Kroger, I tend to go grocery shopping just because I kind of enjoy it. I was walking through Kroger with my younger siblings. I have 3 younger sisters, and we're just walking along. And my younger siblings, they're step siblings, so the family member that I grew up with was on my mom's side. So this is my dad's side, so they've never really been around anyone with disabilities. And so my youngest sister is 6. And on my dad's side, we really haven't had any, she hasn't been confronted with things like this yet. And at school, her class, she's a first grader. She sees people in the hallway. They may have different abilities and things like that, but she's never interacted one-on-one or in a closer setting with those with a disability. And so we're at Kroger, and our cashier saw us come up and was walking with an obvious limp, tilting more to one side when he walked, as well as a hand that was semi-permanent and almost looked like he was more comfortable with his hand to his chest. Dylan, my youngest sister, was kind of taken aback for a second, and she tugs on my shirt and kind of looks up at me. I was like, give me just a second. And when we got into the car, I had to explain that not everyone looks the same, not everyone functions the same, and things like that. I think it was a good learning experience. And we always try to be very informative and open about different types of people in my family, that not everyone will ever look the same or have the same abilities that able-bodied and neurotypical people do. I also see a lot of representation in the show, or let me rephrase. I see certain episodes in the show Shameless that have a good chunk of representation. For example, in one of the episodes, Frank Gallagher experiences chronic liver failure. Yes, this is due to his alcoholism. He's an alcoholic. He's a drunk. But it became a chronic problem. He was jaundiced. He had varicose veins all across his body. He started to become mentally depressed. It began to have become a condition of his whole body that lasted for months upon months, and it was a temporary disability. He did not have the direct function that able-bodied and neurotypical people do. It started to really affect him, so I noticed that he also became unable to walk. Excuse me. And then one evening, really late at night, I will admit I scroll on TikTok probably more than I should. About 1:45 in the morning, I was at home on TikTok, and there is a man named Gabe Adams. He is a man who was born with no limbs. He has no arms and no legs, no fingers, no toes. Absolutely nothing. It cuts off directly at the shoulder and directly at where his hips are. He does not have to live with like in an assisted living. He was born this way. And he uses his story of growing up and experiencing bullying and experiencing maneuvering through life and learning to be an adult, because he is well into adulthood. I think he's about around the age of 30. He has become a social media influencer. He is a makeup artist. He is a style influencer, and he dedicates a lot of his time to advocating for disabled bodies and promoting confidence for disabled bodies. He does live on his own as well. Something that I found really interesting was how he adapted to his body as he grew up and became more interested in things. He puts on his makeup with his hands in his, he does not. Where his hands typically would be, he has a makeup stand. It's like almost like a grasping device, and he uses his mouth to put the brush into the device and uses it to do his makeup in his videos, etc. Over this experience, I've had to have, over the experience of this documentation about disabilities and things of that nature, I've had to have multiple conversations with multiple family members on my dad's side, kind of explaining why it's not okay to do certain things when you notice that someone is in a wheelchair, about why certain people who are in wheelchairs, like, it's not proper to assume that they always need your help. I was actually talking to my boyfriend. I said, what would you do if you walked into a grocery store and you see a man in a wheelchair next to you and he's looking up at something that you would think that he couldn't reach? He goes, oh, well, I'd probably ask him what he needs me to get for him. And I'm like, okay, you have to be careful with that, because it can be seen as rude or disrespectful and inconsiderate and assuming his abilities. Not everyone in a wheelchair can't walk. Not everyone in a wheelchair's legs don't work, et cetera, et cetera. It's basically having to explain to multiple family members that things are not always what we assume them to be, and that sometimes we are more ignorant than we think we are. Which they did not take offense to, but it was a good conversation. I actually have an aunt on my mom's cousin's side who her son has autism. He has developmental disabilities. He was primarily nonverbal until about the age of 7 or 8, and he started taking special classes. He does go to a school for special education, and he is thriving. He communicates mostly through screaming, and he is completely able-bodied, grasping and hand signatures, and they are doing a lot of classes to teach him sign language, because his brain cannot connect to forming speech all the way that it should. But he's doing really, really well. He's learning better ways to communicate every day. It's amazing to watch. Something that an experience while doing these documentations that was really frustrating was I saw a public building with no wheelchair ramp in Dickinson, which is really upsetting, because we dedicate so much time to awareness and, like, preserving the idea of, hey, difference is okay, these things are acceptable, things like that, things that were shunned and seen as not okay for so long. We worked really hard on these things. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of experiences that this really, like, opened my mind to. Definitely please check out my direct documentation. I think it'll go better into depth on certain things I didn't get to address in the video of me speaking. Overall, I hope that Dr. Pagoda continues to make this a required project. I think it really opens the eyes to differences about people and certain things that should have been acknowledged that initially weren't. Thank you.